Hello everyone, my name is SiC and welcome to another Let's Play video for Dawn of War 3. So this is another video that I have done where I played this match without recording this voiceover. So this voiceover is being recorded after the fact and I'm commenting on my own gameplay here a little bit. So this is a matchup of two Space Marine players, myself and my teammate, who I can't quite recall the name of, and we're fighting Orcs and Eldar. So first thing that I want to do is I tend to send out my first servitor out into the map as quickly as possible, and I always try to send them towards the relic point or the elite point, because that one is always hotly contested, and if we can get an early start on that, that is always definitely very helpful. Now we have had a balance patch for this game, and tactical marines are a lot more useful now. That is also why I decided to start with building one of those. This is actually my first match on the new balance patch, so I wasn't quite sure how it was gonna go. I was hoping that the tactical marines were a lot more useful, and they certainly proved to be so. They do quite a bit more damage right now. So I built a forward barracks, and I'm making my first assault marines right now. I'm using my tactical marines there to capture the point close to my base, and my servitor is going towards the back to capture the other points. Meanwhile, though, we have contacts at the point, at the elite point. We got some Eldar coming in, and well, it's a question here if my servitor can get the listening post ready on time. So now that we have both of these points, I decide to bring my tactical marines forward, and I want to hide them for a little while because the Eldar actually have the heavy cover, which means no range damage for us. Now I did finish the listening post on time, but sadly it is almost very close to death already, and the servitor cannot repair it quickly enough. Or not quickly enough, because, well, now a second unit starts up, listening post goes down, I have to pull my servitor back, and the enemy is capturing this point. But, lucky for me, I have assault marines ready, and I kind of forgot about them being in the shield generator, but I decided it was time to bring them forward, launch them into the heavy cover, and then have my tactical marines move forward and provide covering fire. Of course, I want to hide them for a little bit longer, until the assault marines are almost on top, and then an assault move into enemy territory, and the fight is on. Luckily, I also got some backup from my teammate here. Definitely helps me swing the tide a little bit. Enemy decides to pull back. They're outnumbered, which is, you know, good thing for us. Well, they could technically swing this thing around, but I guess they wanted to rear us into the listening post there, which they did do successfully, but I don't give a shit. I'm going after them hard, and I want to do as much damage as possible. My assault marines, I pull them back just before death. And really what I want to do here is I want to reinforce this point as well. I want to try to build another listening post, and later on I want to build a heavy weapons barracks here as well. My second servitor now goes towards this point as well, and make sure that we can make some heavy bolters. Definitely very useful if you put those in heavy cover, because they can do some serious damage. Meanwhile, I've pulled all my guys back a little bit. I'm waiting for the listening post to be finished, so I can reinforce my assault marines. And meanwhile, I'm just trying to see if I can upgrade some points, because we have a decent army in the field right now, and we do need to keep up with resource production. I find it's never really all that great to immediately start building these generators to get more resources, because you have to spend quite a bit of resources on them to begin with. And that means if you spend money on that, you're not spending that money on an army. And without the army, you just don't have the map control required. Alright, so Kill Team Iron Maw is coming in, and I decide to give them the flamethrower, because in the early game, the flamethrower is king against the lighter infantry. Of course, later on, once more vehicles start popping up, you might want to reconsider and get the rocket launcher instead.
Heavy bolter team en route.
First heavy bolters are coming in, and I'm basically gathering up some troops for a push on the listening post just to our south. I have some assault marines ready in a drop pod, which is definitely good, but we need to have more map control. Right now we're about even with the enemy, and we all have an equal amount of points in our possession. I decide to hide my servitors for a little bit. Since they're not building anything, they might as well stay out of sight, and then I can use them to repair or just as forward scouts if we do get pushed back from this location. Now this seems like a pretty good time to actually start to push forward. Listening post is doing some damage, but not a whole lot. And with my elites there, well, I feel pretty confident that I can win this. So I throw out a grenade that weakens the enemy a little bit, but my kill team is getting very damaged very quickly. And sadly, kill team goes down. I didn't quite pay attention to them. I was too busy managing other things like getting in the assault marines and focusing fire on the listening post and all kinds of things like that. So, a bit of a sad loss, but we're not out of the fight for very long. It's only 140 seconds now, so... Only 140 seconds anyway. That's about 2 minutes that they're not doing anything for me, but that is not a whole lot. And meanwhile, I push through the enemy lines. I decide to get my assault marines on the shield generator and do as much damage as I can, because shield generators and objectives like that simply cannot be repaired. Meanwhile, Eldar come in with their own elites, which is, I can't recall the name of them right now, something hunter or other, but they're melee specialists anyway. So I try to fall back with my heavy bolter, get some assault marines there instead. And maybe the heavy bolter can provide some covering fire, which it does. And the melee guys keep them tied down just a little bit, but as you can see they're being cut down. Not great. Meanwhile, tier 2 is happening. Needed to upgrade that so that I can make vehicles and things like that. Now, my army is getting whittled down here a little bit, which is not great. The standing army that I had kind of gets killed. I have the one tactical marine unit, but they're not going to be able to do much. So I decide to hide them in concealment. Eldar is back in heavy cover. Meanwhile, though, I still have my assault marines hacking away at the shield generator, and sadly, I do lose sight of these guys a little bit. At this point, I want to see if I can make the machine cult, but of course, tier 2 needs to happen first. But this is when I notice that the enemy has actually left the heavy cover. And they try to switch out their elite to 2 regular units, which, well, they managed to still hold on to it. They have 2 heavy machine gunners there. The Dark Reapers, I think they're called. Yeah, the Dark Reapers. And they're really good at ranged and killing off my regular infantry, but they suck in melee. And luckily we have some more assault marines. And we need to do the same trick that we did earlier, which is using assault marines to get into the heavy cover and then pushing forward with an attack move of both my my tactical marines, who can then shoot at everybody who gets knocked out of the heavy cover, which is not a whole lot and everybody's back inside, so simply decide to push forward. But my melee guys are making very short work of these guys indeed. My listening post is almost dead, but since I have 2 servitors here, I can quickly repair it. And Kill Team Iron Maw is back in the fight as well, or at least they could be recalled back into the fight now. Their elite goes down quite quickly as well. Tactical Marines definitely are able to hold their ground much better. We do get the enemy elites, so it's a 1 versus 1. You know, we killed their elites, but they also killed one of mine, so we're even on that regard. Meanwhile, though, this is a nice target of opportunity. We're just smashing through the generators, which means that the enemy doesn't get any, or almost no, resources from them. And of course, we can hold our ground for a little bit. Meanwhile, Machine Cult is going to go up. And now we also got our Kill Team Iron Maw back, which means more flamethrowers and more damage against light infantry, which the Eldar do have a lot of. As soon as their shields are gone, they're helpless, and the flamethrower just tears through them. It's brutal. So we have some more assault marines ready in the drop pod to smash down on the enemy. Now I kinda want to keep my assault marines in the back there so they can jump and kinda surprise the enemy. Sadly, the enemy has so many Dark Reapers, and they do an incredible amount of damage. Like in almost the space of 2 seconds, half of my tactical marines are gone. But again, assault marines are coming in, and they're pretty much helpless. Drop pod coming in as well, which means double assault marines, and they're going to tear those Dark Reapers to shreds. Absolute shreds. Jesus. I have a speech impediment, don't I? Meanwhile, though, I'm using my Kill Team Iron Maw to kind of whittle down their building. I'm not sure which building this is exactly, because I'm not too familiar with the Eldar buildings and looks, but any building that I can kill, of course, is going to be very helpful. They try to use these buildings to basically reinforce their shield generator, but it's not working out for them very well. Now they teleported them out and away from danger, but they kept one behind, and they have the other one there as well. Not sure where they teleported it to, actually. Looks like they just teleported it back by like 10 meters, which is ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense. But as you can see, the flamethrower is making very short work of those Dark Reapers. Now, I tried to get rid of them, but now we have some Wraith Knights, or Wraith Guard. I think Wraith Guard coming up, and these guys are heavy duty stuff. And my Kill Team Iron Maw nor my Assault Marines can actually deal with them, which means I need to do as much damage as I can, and then I need to fall back. And again, I kind of lose track of my Assault Marines, who are standing there trying to do some damage. I do remember them finally, and I tried to jump them out of here, but these bullets keep track of where my Assault Marine goes, and they just knock him down, which is sad. Meanwhile though, I sent one of my servitors back to the main base to get the armory, because the armory, well, it's not a building that produces any units, it's for upgrades, so it doesn't really need to be on the front lines.
Preparing land speeder for deployment.
Alright, so, I still have a decent army. I have several tactical marines, I have an assault marine squad still, I have my Kill Team Iron Maw, and Gabriel Angelos is ready to be dropped into the fight as well, but I'm kind of holding off on using him, because if I have 3 more elite points, and I already have 5, so actually I only need 2 more, I can drop in the Assault Terminators, which would be much better indeed. Or, not much better, but these guys hack so many hit points and such a big punch that I really love using them. They're really good. And of course, if you level up the Assault Terminators to level 8, you get a doctrine that allows tactical marines to throw grenades, which is extremely useful and is something I want, and that is something I'm going to be working towards. Meanwhile though, I have one of my skimmer vehicles who can basically fly over gaps and is a great harassment tool to destroy some generators in the enemy rear. Alright. So, I decided to push forward once again, not to give the enemy too much rest, and again, they're going very heavy on the Dark Reapers. Now at this point, I did have enough elite points to get in my Assault Terminators, and I moved them forward, and I immediately used their special ability on the WP, and as you can see, it is going to be very effective indeed. One punch, and it just almost wipes out 3 Dark Reaper squads. My Tactical Marines are slightly chewed up, but my heavy bolters and my kill team are doing some decent damage against these guys, and of course my Assault Terminators are helping soak up the damage. Right, more Assault Marines coming in, we got some enemy elites dropping in, and at this point I decided to drop my banner, because, well, with the Wraith Knights, or the Wraith Guard, I need the damage boost, and basically the stuff gives me more health and damage upgrades, so that is definitely very good. Wasn't needed, maybe, because, well, we did destroy all the Eldar stuff here, and we might have done it without the banner, but it definitely didn't hurt to have it there. As you can see, this is tier 2, and it also gives these guys shields, which after a while will be destroyed. You know, they can be whittled down by enemy fire, or they will be gone as soon as the banner goes away. Now, at this point our next objective is of course the enemy turret, and I want to attack it, but I want to see if I can get some help from my buddy there, and I decide to harass the other generator as well. I kind of lost track of this, because we had a bigger and more important engagement going on elsewhere, and that guy is simply not harassed, so yeah. At this point, I want to have something that allows me to get tanks, and that means we need to go to tier 3. And once we get tanks, well, the turret is going to be mincemeat. Right. So Assault Terminators are regenerating their health at the listening post. Meanwhile, I'm just getting my line units ready for another push. I feel like I have enough to basically take the turret, but I want to wait a little bit longer. Eldar are gaining a little bit of time to get some more units up, but, well, they don't really have many resource points left, so building their army is going to be slow, and meanwhile I'm just building my army at full strength. And again, I try to put my assault marines in the rear and my tactical marines on the front line, so that these guys basically are kind of stealthed and I can make the jump a little bit more unannounced. My buddy, however, is still struggling to gain the mid-ground. As you can see, the orcs are kind of pushing him back, but the dreadnoughts do help to turn the tide somewhat. And I decide to keep my eyes on it a little bit more, because we don't want one of our shield generators to go down. And if I can do something to help that out, well, that would definitely be very useful indeed. And as you can see, the skimmer vehicle ignores all terrain and just goes wherever it damn well pleases, which is damn useful. I decide to basically scout the enemy location a little bit, see what I can see in their base and what buildings are where. And maybe I could do some damage and snipe something, because I'm not entirely sure where the Eldar army is. I did put one tactical marine unit in the enemy shield, or in our shield generator actually, because I wanted my teammate to have a fallback line, and then I send them forward as well to support them closer to the front line, because, well, marines are there to fight wars after all, and there's no good for them to just sit back. If they can help turn the tide a little bit, that is definitely much better. Now I decide to go for the push on the turret, and this is going to be a fairly major engagement as well. As you can see, the Wraith Guard, I think, are there as well. 2 squads of them, actually. We do get some last cannons and some heavy bolters. And I've spread out my troops as much as I can, because the turret does some decent damage in a line every once in a while. It does also do some regular, but almost inconsequential damage to regular units, but as soon as it does its line attack, that's when it does its real damage, which this is the line attack right there. And as you can see, well, it's going down pretty hard with my health, but we do get the turret, which means that, well, I need to push forward or I need to fall back and regroup. I decide to push forward a little bit. They only have Dark Reapers and we can do some decent damage against them. And I figure that these are the last of the enemy troops and I have elite points that are not being used. So I decide to get the orbital laser to mop these guys up, spare my troops from being too much damage, and I want to see if I can push on the power core a little bit. Turns out though that this orbital laser is a bit of a waste of the elite points. Enemy falls back and I can't really chase them down with this thing, so it's just sitting there burning holes into the ground, and I'm hoping for the best. I also completely forgot about the infantry upgrades, but I decided to get some because I had the resources to spare. But yeah, my army is kind of all over the place. I have 3 line units there, I have another 2 to the back, I have an elite further to the rear, and these guys are just completely outclassed and need to fall back. This is no good here. I can fall back 2 guys and I need to sacrifice the other because otherwise everybody's getting chased down and hurt. Yeah, and I decided my position is unsustainable and I need to fall back to my listening post and basically regroup. Let the heroes regenerate their health, get my line units back up to full strength, and meanwhile I'm also pushing out even more line units and getting some upgrades. Also, I have 3 drop pods ready to go as well. I have a dreadnought, I have a well, there's 2 tanks. I think this is the Predator tank that I lined up, and that should be excellent against buildings like, of course, the objective that we need to take. And I have some assault marines as well. Though everybody is just basically gathering strength. I did, however, misclick a rally point, and 2 of my line units, as you can see in the minimap on the bottom right, are moving towards the enemy, which is very bad indeed. These guys can't do shit on their own. And that is definitely not good. Alright, meanwhile, I'm pretty good at spending my resources at this point. I stayed on top of it pretty well. And now I notice, like, oh shit, 3 of my line units are going forward. They don't have any backup and they need to be close to the rest of my army. And everybody, as soon as everybody's healed up and reinforced, I want to do another push. I also want to have another dreadnought, because the dreadnoughts are awesome. Both in the lore, both in their looks, as well as their quotes in this game, as well as the damage they can do and the damage they can soak up. These dreadnoughts are probably my favorite RTS units of any game. I think that's pretty safe to say. Meanwhile, we have another big engagement over on the orc side of the map, and my teammate has to pull back a little bit, and I decide I need to help him out a little bit more, because the tactical marines are not going to be able to do enough against Wasmaka, 2 units of mobs, and whatever else the enemy is bringing forward, like rocket tanks or rocket orcs. Kind of forgot their name. But while we have all this chaos going on, I decide to also press my advantage and make an attack on the power core. That might draw the enemy towards the base again and give my buddy some time to breathe. Meanwhile, Gabriel Angelos is doing a decent job of turning the tide along with his Dreadnought brothers. Wasmaka is stunned, we do another jump attack, and we do the knockback, which is also really useful. Then I see we also have Weird Boy Sapnoggin in the back, so I decide to attack him as well. Now that my Dreadnought has reached my main army, we're making the push towards the power core. For some reason I also noticed that I have my Servitor going with me, but then I decide to use that Servitor to build a forward barracks almost in the enemy base. And hopefully we can use that as a fallback point to reinforce if we need to. And at this point I noticed the Brave Knight, which is the ultimate elite belonging to the Eldar, and I kinda shit my pants because I mostly just have line units and only have the one last cannon unit. It's not good, but I decide to go for it. I decide to push for it. I want to grab the enemy's attention, and meanwhile I'm dropping all 3 of my drop pods right on top of the enemy power core. Of course, the Dark Reapers did notice it, and they are doing a lot of damage there. But I'm actually surprised at how little damage the Eldar Wraith Knight is doing. And of course, this is another prime opportunity to drop a banner, so that all the brothers can rally to it. The cannon, or my tank, is doing a lot of damage, and nobody's really attacking it, except for the elites with the pistols, and of course that is never going to be enough. Dreadnought is clearing his feet, and then just keeps knocking back the enemy. And then doing some damage against the power core. Meanwhile though, my line units, they are kind of thinned out and they need to attack more forward. Dreadnoughts, as you can see, are really good at clearing enemy ground. And there goes the power core. So, that was it for this video. Please leave a like and a comment below if you enjoyed this content and want to see more. And I'll see you guys for whatever video I do next.
This victory belongs to the Emperor, but was made by you.